Hello, everybody. Good morning, and welcome to Cold Brew Hot Takes, where I am encouraging you to have an even better day today than you did the day before. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about kindness to ourselves and treating ourselves like we would a 5-year-old. If you're a parent, you probably know exactly where this is going, but sometimes we all need a reminder. And if you're not a parent, then listen up, because this is probably the cold, hard truth that you really need to hear in order to be kind to yourself and allow yourself to grow with grace. It is a scorching 100-degree day here in Detroit, so grab your cold brew and let's get started. Welcome to episode 4 of Cold Brew Hot Takes. I am your host, Sam, and I am encouraging you and empowering you to have an even better day today than you did the day before. Now, in today's episode, we're going to be talking a lot about just treating ourselves with kindness and giving ourselves grace, because if you're anything like me, you are so hard on yourself. I literally do so much, and it feels even weird saying that out loud. If you are a parent, you really don't give yourself enough credit for the things that you do and the way that you contribute, whether it's to your household, to yourself, to your family, whatever it might be. It's sometimes really hard to accept that we are really pouring ourselves so much into the things that we do just to keep things afloat. And if you're not a parent, if you are relatively young, maybe you have roommates, maybe you or just kind of starting your life, I'm sure that there are even some circumstances and some times where you've really put in a lot of hard work. And sometimes it's really hard to just accept and put yourself out there, giving yourself the praise that you really deserve. We're really hard on ourselves. If you're anything like me, we really struggle with doing that. If I make one mistake, one error, I find myself really getting caught up on it. Or I find myself saying, man, my house is never clean enough. My business is not thriving the way that I want it to be. I'm not growing as much as I would like to be. I'm not following my fitness journey the way that I would ideally want it to be. I'm not good enough at this. I'm not good enough at that. And it's all bullshit. And I think we all know that. But as with many episodes in this podcast that we've already recorded and that are already to come, this is just what you need to hear today. And I hope that this speaks to you. You know, when it came time for me to really think about the episode I wanted to record today, I thought about my daughter. For those of you who don't know, I have a 5-year-old daughter. I have one child. We chose to only have one. She was born in May 2020. Right when COVID was really starting to get crazy. And that was a really interesting time to have a baby. I'll just say that now. And not that this is even close to being the end of the world. I look back and I kind of laugh at myself a little bit, because it was so small compared to things that I've seen people go through personally. But she was born with hip dysplasia, which is nothing. It's literally the ball of your hip is just not pushed into the socket, and you just need a corrective little harness to get it into place. And if it's not corrected early on, it can lead to some pretty major surgery and things like that happening later on in life. But long story short, she was in this teeny little brace. I'll put a little picture on here for those who are watching this, and you can see a little picture of her. She's looking at a little baby frog. It's just so cute. But she was like that for 13 weeks. She got put into that brace when she was 5 days old. And I remember just being an absolute mess. And just I just never, ever, ever want to do this again. What if it's worse next time, were the words that I spoke to my husband. And, it's really horrible to think that way. But that's the reality of it. And, time went on. She got out of the brace. She's perfectly healthy, wonderful, amazing, bright, smart little girl. And we were still just I don't really think that we want to have another one. So, yeah, she's our one and only. I was just talking to my girlfriends about this the other day. A lot of my friends have multiple children. They have 2, sometimes even 3 kids. And Me and my best friend, we each have just one. And we were talking with, a bunch of other girlfriends, and I kind of explained to them, not that I ever want to feel victimized. Woe is not me in this case, but for my daughter, I feel like I have one shot. I have one shot to get this parenting thing right because I'm not doing it again. I have one kid and I have one chance to have her first steps, her first words, the first time she goes to school, like all of those things. And so raising her, I feel like a little bit of a sense of pressure because if I don't get it right, I'm not going to have another shot. And, there's a million ways that you can parent your kids. There's a million ways that you can do anything. You see so many parenting TikToks of like, don't do gentle parenting because then your kids grow up to be really sensitive and unable to take criticism and hear the hard truth and those types of things. But then you hear, well, if you aren't a gentle parent and you kind of go with more of like a disciplinarian approach, your kids are going to be traumatized because they're going to think you don't love them and, all sorts of different things. I always say you're going to find one way to traumatize your child, no matter what you do. Your kids are going to grow up completely imperfect, just like all of us have. But one thing I always try to do is I try to explain to my child to be kind to herself. And that's the purpose of the message today. What would I say to myself if I were a 5-year-old? The other day, we were driving home from a birthday party and they had glow sticks. And if you remember having little glow sticks as a kid, remember there's a little connecting piece. And it can be a little tricky to push one piece into another. And she was trying to do it. And she just kept saying to herself, like, I'm never doing this again. I never want to play with a glow stick again. And she was having a really big feeling about it. And I try to remind herself, just remember, like, you've never done this before. Like, you're not going to get it on the first try. You have to practice. Like, you have to keep working at it. And sure enough, she's all angry in the back seat. I'm just trying to drive to the grocery store so I can get some stuff for dinner. And finally, she looks in the rearview mirror and she's like, Ma. And I look back and I said, yes. Because I'm tired of this attitude, okay? And she goes, I got it. With a smile on her face, she holds it up. She got it. And I said, how does that make you feel? And she can get a little shy. She knows that I'm trying to teach her a lesson. And she just didn't say anything. I said, baby, how does that make you feel? And she said, good. And I said, because you kept trying and you didn't give up? And she's like, yeah. I said, I want you to remember that, baby. I want you to remember if you want something to work, you have to sometimes keep working at it. You're not always going to get something on the first try. And I remember in that moment, I compartmentalized that for myself. And I said to myself, how come I don't do that with me? How come I don't tell myself, Sam, you've never recorded a podcast before. You've never started a business before. Like you've never done some of these tasks that you have been doing lately before. So why aren't you giving yourself some grace? Why aren't you being kind to yourself or reminding yourself, like, it's okay that you're learning. You can't be an expert right off the bat. It's never going to work like that. And it just like one of those moments that really hit me. In addition to that, the other day, she's learning how to ride a bike. She's 5. She has training wheels. And there are some days she's like unstoppable on this bike. But then there are other days where she's like terrified to get on this bike. And it's because one time she fell down. Now, one time when she did fall down, she got right back up, she brushed it off, and she got back on. So every time she wants to ride her bike or we encourage her to ride her bike, it's hit or miss. She's either like really into it or she's like really apprehensive to get back on that bike. And the other day, she is getting on the bike and she's in a better mood. And she is cruising, you guys. Like I'm struggling to keep up with her. She was just feeling so confident and like unstoppable, fearless on this bike. She hits the brakes and she stops and I walk up to her and I just said, hey, you are doing such a good job. And I just want you to remember this for a second. Just close your eyes. And so she does. And I say, I want you to remember how good you feel in this moment. And I want you to remember that you tried. And I know you were a little nervous at first, but look at you now. Like a couple weeks ago, you were scared to even get on this bike. Now you're going so fast and you're doing so well. And I am so incredibly proud of you. And are you feeling proud of yourself? And she's like, yeah, I am. I said, I want you to remember this. When the days feel hard, when the moments feel hard to get on this bike, or you fall down and you might be scared to get back up, or you're afraid you're going to fall again, I want you to remember how good it felt right now in this moment that you are soaring and you are confident and you are having fun and you're enjoying yourself. But that also you put in the work to practice, and that's what led you here. And you could tell she was just lighting up, beaming. We continue on with our bike ride. You guys, this is another moment, right? This is another moment. Like, why aren't we treating ourselves like our 5-year-old self or like our children? I would never expect a 5-year-old to just get on a bike and start feeling good about it. Like, especially mine. Okay, my 5-year-old is pretty sensitive, but why aren't we doing that with ourselves? How come when we're doing so well, we don't stop and we reflect and say, look at me. I've worked really hard. I have overcome my fears and my doubts and my worries of things. And now here I am soaring. And then when we get knocked down, how come we don't say, okay, yeah, like everybody falls sometimes. Everybody falls off their bike sometimes. But I can get back on and I can keep trying. Why don't we do that for ourselves? Are you doing that for yourself? I want you to really think about that today. I want you to really think about, if I were a 5-year-old, what would I want somebody to tell me if I fell down or I was feeling doubtful of myself or I wasn't feeling as good about myself that I really wish I was? And then here's the last thing I'll say on this topic of treating yourself like a 5-year-old. Last night, like literally not even 12 hours ago, my daughter has had a really hard time going to bed. She keeps coming to me and she's like, I miss you. I miss you. And it's because she just started an extra day of like summer preschool. So now she's in there 4 days a week instead of 3. We're just trying to get her adjusted for kindergarten when she goes 5 full days. And she keeps coming to get me. And she keeps saying, I'm not tired, so you can stay with me in bed and we can keep talking, we can play, and we can do all these things. And I told her, I said, I want you to close your eyes and I want you to take a deep breath. And I held her hand and I said all these different affirmations. She kept repeating after me, and I did, my body deserves rest. My mind deserves to take a break. I did such a great job today. I'm proud of who I am. Like all of these things, right? And you can tell like she was really feeling it. And when we were all done, I said, didn't that feel so good to say all of those things and like remind ourselves of what we need in order to have a really good day tomorrow? And she was like, yeah. And if you're a parent, you might be listening to this like, wow, my kid would never. And you say that, okay? But I want you to remember your kid will model what you do. Your kid is going to model the things that you are an example of. And trust me, I know, like my child used to spit on me and hit me. Like, I mean, we went through the trenches. We still go through the trenches a lot. Like, you have no idea. But it's important to remember you have to keep pushing and striving and continuing to be a good example to them and model the type of behavior and the attitude that you want them to have, which again is another reminder of why we should treat ourselves with grace, just the same way that we would treat them or treat any 5-year-old in our life. So that's it. That's today's hot take. Treat yourself like a 5-year-old. Give yourself grace. Be kind to yourself. And remember that you can always get back up if you fall off that bike. Now go get you a refill, and I'll see you next time.